News. This is Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Chris Wallace.
There used to be an ad for policemen that showed the picture of a darkened alley with the words, "You wouldn't go in there for $1 million. A cop does it for a lot less." The same can be said for firefighters. A building is engulfed in flames or suffocating smoke, and we take it for granted that a firefighter will rush in to save us and our property. 2 weeks ago on Father's Day, it happened in New York City. A fire started in a hardware store in Queens. It seemed to be a small routine blaze. But suddenly an explosion, apparently caused by gasoline spilled by 2 boys and chemicals in the store, tore through the walls and collapsed part of the roof. 3 firemen were killed. John Downing, the father of 2. Brian Fahey, who had 3 children. And Harry Ford, who left 3. It takes a lot to make a city like New York stop short. But what's become known as the Father's Day fire has done just that, making people reflect on how much we all owe the people who put out our fires. Those are the bare bones of what happened 12 days ago. Tonight, we're going to take you inside that burning building and tell you stories of courage and sacrifice.
Diesel, hands salute.
Harry the horse, a fun guy, told it like it is. He's a great golfer, great fireman especially, and I want to make that quite clear.
Harry was a great man. Harry was a pleasure to have in the firehouse. He was a man I looked up to. I just can't say enough about that man. He was just a super person.
Brian was a firefighter that was really big into instructing. He was always looking for a little extra way to make money on the side for his family, and he just was that type of guy that was always moving around looking for that extra edge to help his family out, and brother firefighters.
Brian looked a little older than he was because of his stature. Cigar-smoking man, you know, kind of a tough look to him, always with a smile. And Brian fit right in. Brian was a very experienced fireman.
John was a great guy. He was a fireman for 12 years. He was a street smart guy, and he was a book smart guy.
John Downing was a big burly man. He was sure and confident. He was smart. He was the kind of guy you wanted by your side.
It was a routine type of a Sunday, a little on the slow side. Everybody was looking forward to getting home at night for Father's Day dinner.
It was rainy in the morning, but it was a good day. We were all joking around and kidding around the kitchen table. John was going on vacation, and he was going to Ireland, so he was in a good mood, and everybody was upbeat.
We had 1 or 2 runs early in the morning between 9 and 12, and then we went out and got the meal. It was our turn to get the meal this month. And we came back. In fact, everything seemed fine.
Harry and I were talking about watching golf, and we would have had lunch and dinner and maybe watch the Met game at 8 o'clock on ESPN, and hopefully we would have had an uneventful day. We didn't.
Queens Fire Department, dispatch 813. What's the address of the fire?
1222 Astoria Blvd.
What's on fire there?
The store, inside the stores.
All right, fire department is responding. PD 813, okay?
All right.
We were on our way to another call in Manhattan for a building collapse, and Rescue 1, who covers Manhattan, was available. So we were turned around, and as fate has it, we were closer to the scene than we normally would have been, and we got there quicker than we should have been.
Ah, that's the hardware store. It's just blowing up in there. Yeah, I didn't see anything yet. You can hardly see anything.
It's wood construction. It's more than 75 years old. It wasn't sprinkled. It's not required to be. And generally a good building. We have not had problems in that building in the past.
We got there, and I pulled the ladder off of our truck, and was proceeding to the building.
Normal fire conditions, some smoke in the first floor and some coming out of the basement. We had assignments, and we proceeded to go to our assignments.
Firefighter Gain and I went into the exposure force side of the building, and we had a medium smoke condition halfway down within the building. I was able to see the floor.
At that time, I had a thermal imaging camera and a hook with me. The captain had reminded me not to go too far without a hose line. I just stuck my head inside the door, knocked over some of the shelving.
Firefighter Gain did a good visual all the way to the rear of the store and reported to me.
And he said, "What do you see?" I backed away from the door and I said, there's a lot of heat. I says, "On the ceiling, but there's no fire." He says, "Okay, fine." He says, "Let's make our way in." We made our way in.
We looked around, we felt the walls for heat, which is part of our procedures. We opened up some walls looking for smoke. It wasn't anything serious.
The thermal imaging camera showed a good amount of heat condition emanating from the cellar entrance, which was normal. I mean, there was a cellar fire.
I was on the... Captain Hickey had said to me that let's look for additional areas of fire, check the walls. The camera was showing that there was heat in an area right alongside the wall of where the staircase was. Went to the rear of the building, and our job was to force the rear door to get into the building so the hose lines could come in and put the fire out.
The rear proved a very difficult door to force, a very heavy steel security door that caused a little bit of a delay. And while they were routinely forcing the door...
4 Division of Queens, transmit a second alarm, a full second alarm. We've had a major explosion.
By 10-4.
The explosion let loose, totally unexpected, unanticipated. I mean, there was no reason for anybody to believe this was anything but an ordinary basement fire.
We go to a 4th, we had an explosion 2 collapsed. We may have evidence of it this week.
All right, that's a full 4th alarm?
4.
It was no longer a routine fire. Basically, all hell broke loose. We had Mayday calls, which people missing.
Have another rescue, 2 rescues respond. We have possibly fireman trapped underneath the collapse. Okay.
All the brothers knew at that moment that we had trapped firefighter. And that's our worst nightmare, is to have to deal with that.
It changed in a second. We were all doing our job. It was a routine job. It was going well, and it changed in a second.
So I had just stepped from the building, and I got blown into the street along with probably about 5 or 6 other men on the sidewalk.
Everything blew up. The explosion was deafening. You couldn't really hear. You couldn't see.
I flew in the air. You're weightless, basically, and you hit the ground, and there was such a violent explosion. I really didn't expect to survive.
It was like a nauseating feeling, just being lifted up into the air, thrown into the air.
The floors just splintered, came up in front of us, and everybody was separated.
So at that point, a second alarm assignment was given, followed very shortly by a 4th alarm, which brought a tremendous amount of help to the scene.
I heard my captain on the radio say, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday, Rescue 4, Mayday."
At that point, immediately after winding up on the sidewalk, I called for roll call of my members. And I originally got no response from Harry Ford. The next second, I got a response from Brian Fahey.
At that time, we just couldn't believe what we were hearing.
Brian Fahey told me that he was trapped in the basement under the stairs. We tried to get back in the way we came out, and the debris was, like I stated, pile high to the ceiling. As we tried to get back in that way, the fire was now coming out over the ceiling.
Remember, there's no line right there. Don't go in too deep.
And all I could think about is that The stairway is gone, and how are we going to get to Brian?
We heard Brian say one more time that I'm in the basement, I'm trapped, come and get me. And we had heard his vibro alert in the back. The vibro alert is a vibration that is built into your mask that will vibrate when you have a short amount of air left. It's an alert to the firefighter to let them know for you to get out. And when we heard that in the background, when Brian gave his message, we knew we had a small window of opportunity left.
The radio traffic told us. Eventually, when we saw what we had, we knew we had 3 men missing. One of the men was in the front of the building where I was. The other 2 men were on the side of the building.
The 2 men, Harry Ford and John Downing, were still not yet recovered. I ran to a spot where I thought John might be and started pulling bricks and wood, and it turned out that he was very close to where I was.
I went right to work. I had some aches and pains, but we have a need to get our brothers out, and that's the tradition of the city fire department. We don't leave without them.
If you looked at the job, you saw one white car there that was clearly visible, that almost wasn't damaged. And a few of the firemen had seen John and Harry Ford by that white car, and the chief set out a grid where we would search from that car out. That's when everybody had the look that they knew it was very urgent that we find the bodies.
We all went to overdrive knowing that Brian was missing, Harry was missing, John was missing.
Scratches, stitches, tears. I mean, it wouldn't matter. I mean, a brother's life depended on it. And they gave it their all, chiefs included.
I'm not really in charge of the fire. We got competent chiefs to do that. So I was able to just jump in and try to help.
They actually found Harry Ford first, and John's helmet was right by him, so they knew he was in the area. There was a lot of men that helped in the effort. I was one of the men that helped carry John to the stretcher and went in the ambulance with him.
In this situation, when we pull somebody out, we hope for the best. But these guys were under rubble for a while. The rubble was 7 foot deep.
We all moved as many bricks as fast as we could, and we found them in a short period of time. But they, I truly believe, were killed instantly.
We must have worked for a good 3 hours. We kept on working. Fire would blow out into our area where we were working every few moments, and we have to extinguish it slightly with some hose lines.
But the water was turning to steam and hot water, and it was dripping down off the ceiling and off the walls, and it was going through my hood, and it was burning us even more.
And then finally, we went to the surface, and Brian was found. Members of Rescue 2 and 4 put him into a Stokes basket, and the members of Rescue 4, as tradition has it in the New York City Fire Department, we take our brothers out. And that's what we did. With all due respect, we took Brian to the ambulance.
We
rode out on the truck that morning with 6 men and came back with 4. That is something nobody wants to happen to them. Nobody.
Coming back on that truck, basically, it was just, we were just numb. We had no feeling whatsoever. What had we just gone through?
It'll never be the same. It'll never be the same without Harry, without Brian, without other firefighters that have died in the line of duty.
I really feel for the Faheys and the Fords and the Downeys over this. It really hits you very closely when you have young children that won't have a father.
And for his children, there's no way to convey to you what a hero your dad is and was. I don't know how to convey to you really what a hero your son, your husband, and your dad was. So I would ask if the people in the church could stand up and outside and just applaud for Harry so that his children feel and understand what a fine and exceptional man he was. Thank you.
At that time, when we led the procession into the church and led the procession out of the church after Mass, just felt very proud to bring this man to church, to put him in his final resting place. And it was an honor and a tribute to be a part of it, hoping that I never have to go through it again. And I have a lot of respect for these men, and I wanted to show it by being there and doing the right thing.
You see people in the street with all different uniforms on. There's firemen from all over the world were calling up and staying in other firehouses. And I don't even know how many people attended the funeral. As far as I could see, there were firefighters.
And the brotherhood is there, that firefighters, whether in Massachusetts or Miami, realize the job that's done. And when something like this occurs, they want to lend their support.
We come to the firehouse, we live together, we work together. We know each other's families, each other's kids. We're part of each other's lives. When something good happens, we all celebrate together. And when something bad happens, we all cry together. It's an unfortunate and devastating thing that happened to our friend, our company, and in our town. It could happen to a fireman anywhere responding to a fire or an emergency. This is what we're trained to do.
And it's a very, very dangerous job where people have gotten killed over the years, and as much as I hate to say it, this is not going to be the last time it happens. As long as we continue to do the job of saving life and property in the city, we're going to have casualties.
Will it happen again? I sure hope not. I never want to relive again what we had gone through that Father's Day. And that 8 children no longer have a dad. 3 women no longer have a husband, and firefighters in 3 companies, 3 firehouses, no longer have a brother firefighter that they used to call brother. Of course, we have them in a better place, and hopefully it'll save a spot for us all.
In the 12 days since the Father's Day fire, when 3 firefighters were killed and more than 50 injured, the 2 units that lost men, Rescue 4 and Engine 163, have rolled out on more than 100 calls. Almost 100 years ago, New York City's fire chief said, "Firefighting is a hazardous occupation. It is dangerous on the face of it, tackling a burning building. Consequently, when a man becomes a fireman, his act of bravery has already been accomplished. And that's our report for tonight. I'm Chris Wallace in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.